Alright, what's up guys? It is Matt here again. What's up? I am back with another news video slash kind of rant video for you guys today. Haven't done a news video with my face in a long time. I want you guys to see more of my beautiful features. Also, I'm playing around with the camera angles as well, so seeing how that goes. Today, we have some Final Fantasy 16 news to talk about today. I haven't got to talk about this in a while. It's gonna allow me to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a long time. Let's go. So the director of Final Fantasy 16, Naoki Yoshida, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, did an interview with Famitsu Weekly where he talks about Final Fantasy 16, gives some details about it, talks about the development of the game and stuff like that. There's two main things that he talks about in here that people are focusing on, but I want to focus on one of them. The other big main thing that he talks about in here is the fact that they're not going to be doing turn-based combat in Final Fantasy 16. They're going to be moving away from that and just focusing on real-time action combat. And he says the reason that they did that is to appeal to more modern gamers, younger gamers who did not grow up with that kind of style and are not used to that kind of thing. I guess I'll count myself in that. I'm 22, but I still count myself in that. I've not been a fan of turn-based stuff anyways. That's just not my thing. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I know some people do, but you know, it's not that big of a deal to me. But the part that I want to focus on for this video is where he talks about the style of game that they're going to be going for in Final Fantasy 16. Specifically, the possibility of an open world Final Fantasy game. Here's what he had to say. When I played the first Final Fantasy, I thought, this is a movie-like gaming experience. The production, the dialogue, the timing, the drama, the sound, they all combine to create the greatest gaming experience possible. Once a Chocobo or Moogle was included, I thought it was already a Final Fantasy experience. That game experience must be felt in 16 as well. Additionally, it is necessary to understand the overall outline of the game's design by taking into account the strengths of the team itself. When thinking about it, I believe an open world would not fit for what we're planning now. I want a story of a hero who saves the world, because this is Final Fantasy. I want a summon to go wild and destroy the map. I want to release this game as soon as possible. I cannot release this game in parts. When considering these four main points, I believe it is practically impossible to ask for everything. If we had the development period of about 15 years, we may have had the opportunity of challenging ourselves with an open world. After all, it is almost impossible in terms of time and cost to create a global story with an open world. I thought the development team would be worried about this. Delivering what we believe is the best story and an experience that blends together games and movies does not require an open world. So yeah, basically what he's saying there is that this game is not going to be an open world game. That's not the game that they want to create. They want to focus on other things like the story, the combat, the overall Final Fantasy-ness of it, I guess you could say. He does mention the most core aspects of Final Fantasy, like the story, the music, the combat. And even if they wanted to, it would take about 15 years. I know that's a bit exaggerated, but seeing how other things have gone, maybe not. This is a great decision. I think it is a great idea to not make this game open world. What they did with 15 and 7 Remake is create these individual sections, these individual maps that you can explore throughout various chapters of the game. Not try to connect them seamlessly, not try to create this seamless open world with all of this stuff going on. No, just focus on a few things in particular and make those things great. I think that is the best way to go about it. I think that is Final Fantasy. It incorporates a lot of the stuff that's from the past of Final Fantasy, and I think that keeps the core of the game series in mind. And exactly like they said, that's their goal. So yeah, great decision overall. But this is gonna let me go on a rant on something that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a long time. And that is the rant against open world games in general. I'm fucking tired of them. I'm tired of seeing them. I don't want them anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. And the reason that I want to rant about it in this video is because pretty much everything he mentions here in the interview is the reasons why I'm tired of these open world games. Like he mentions in the interview there, if they made this game open world, it would take a lot of focus away from the actual core aspects of the game. Combat, the story, all that stuff. For most of the open world games, at least that I play nowadays, those things seem severely lacking in those games, at least from my experience. Every time I play like a Ubisoft open world game or a fucking EA open world game, which I've not played in a long ass time, thank God. I'm staying out of that shit because obvious reasons. But every time I play it, I'm just like, there's so many things in this world and they want to do so much other stuff with it. They want to tell this grand story, all these characters and all this story and all of this just stuff layered on top of each other. But whenever I play the game, I feel like a lot of the core aspects of a game are kind of missing. Like the combat gets boring really, really fast. There's not much deviation in it. The story gets drawn out. I know they want you to spend as much time playing the game as possible, but goddamn, that's a lot. It just seems like it lacks focus. That's what it seems like to me with these open world games, especially as we get further in technology and these games become much, much harder to develop. You have to put way more into the technology side of developing that than you would developing the story. So that's kind of turned me off from just open world game design, because I just know if the game's open world, at least nowadays, it will be a fucking unfocused mess. That's just generally how it goes. And the second reason why I am not too fond of these games anymore is the things that happen behind the scenes. These games are huge, all right? These games are massive. These games are expansive. These games are thick boys, all right? That's a thick-ass boy right there, I'll tell you what. And of course, with a bigger game, that means bigger budgets and much more time needed to actually complete the game. And again, as technology advances, that timeline just grows longer and longer. But you see, game publishers, they don't like that. They want these games out as soon as possible to bring up that profit margin every year and to please their shareholders. So usually how it goes nowadays is that the game spends like 3 or 4 years in pre-production, where they're just kind of like laying out the structure of the game and what the game might be like. And then in the final year, they have to pretty much make the entire game in a year. So that leads to what we call crunch. If you don't know what crunch is an industry term where a game is going to be releasing somewhat soon and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So these developers have to stay long hours. They have to sacrifice their personal lives. They have to sacrifice their mental health and their physical health, all for giving the game publisher bigger profit margin. And it does numbers on people. It really does. And crunch lasts anywhere between a couple months to a couple years, even. As been foretold by the exposés by Jason Schreier on Mass Effect Andromeda, Anthem, other games like that, and some Rockstar games as well, like LA Noire. That one was pretty fucked up. That Red Dead Redemption 2 had people working like 80 or 100 hours a week on it at some point and claiming that as a bonus. Yeah, that's not good. It's not a good thing. People make these games. Do you think these games are made by robots? They're not. They're made by human beings who have lives, and those lives can kind of get fucked up by these games sometimes. And even when these big games come out and they make record profits, they fire the employees right after. And some people like to say that crunch is inevitable. It's going to happen no matter what. But time and time again, it has been shown that crunch is the producers of the game not setting their deadlines right, and also greedy game publishers trying to get the game out as fast as possible. These developers have no control over how this game is planned out. They just do what the producers tell them to do. So they have to just go along with it, and their lives get fucked up as a result. So yeah, now that I know all the stuff that happens behind the scenes with this shit, sometimes I don't feel comfortable buying these games, honestly. I think people for the longest time just saw the company name, and that was it. They didn't think about the people behind that name. But I think nowadays we're realizing that these games are made by people. And whenever I see a big, open world, expansive, humongous game announcement from a game publisher, I'm just like, okay, when's the Jason Schreier expose gonna come out? I'll just say it, if smaller scale games are more necessary nowadays to keep the mental health of the workers in mind, then maybe we should stop. So honestly, nowadays, I feel like I'm supporting a bad business when I buy these kind of open world games, because it's just kind of, again, people like to say, oh, it's the industry standard. So with these bigger games, it's just inevitable that there was some crunch involved, unless they say otherwise. And even then, I'm still skeptical. I know that sounds like a ridiculous reason, but honest to God, sometimes that just is how I feel. I feel bad for the developers, and I think more people should keep that in mind when they're considering purchasing games. It sucks that that has to be the case, but unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Seems like it happens most with these kind of games, though, with these open world games where there's so much stuff that needs to be done and they don't have enough time to actually make it good, at least. So that's why I say good on Square Enix for not making this game an open world, actually taking their time with it. They announced this back in 2020, but it's releasing in summer in 2023. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to make this video to kind of say good on you for focusing on what is good in Final Fantasy, making the game great, making the combat great. I know some people don't like that, but hey, I'm fine with it. Focusing on what matters. Because at the end of the day, if people's lives are happy and a game comes out good, then everyone involved benefits. That's just how it is. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Tell me down in the comments below what you guys think about this. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you want to see an open world Final Fantasy game one day? How would you think they would do it? And what's your opinion on open world games in general? I would like to have a discussion with you guys about that. Also, make sure to subscribe, like this video, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord server, turn on notifications. Really awesome if you did. This has been Matt, and I will see you guys in the next video. Whatever that's going to be. So yeah.